Friends, Trump spoke for 72 minutes in Davos. All the media around the world are busy reporting who he attacked again and what harsh words he threw out this time. But if that's all you see, the surface-level noise, then you seriously underestimated the weight of this speech. My judgment is simple. Those 72 minutes were a death certificate for Globalization 1.0. What were people arguing about before? A few percentage points of tariffs, a few $100 billion, more or less in trade deficits. At the core, it was still bargaining. Still doing business at the same table. But this time, Trump changed the language entirely. He no longer said, "China took advantage of us." What he said instead was, "The US and Europe are the foundation of Western civilization and must jointly resist external threats." He even used the phrase barbarian tribes. When the leader of a superpower starts drawing lines based on civilization, this is no longer about business. Business can be negotiated. Civilization only allows you to choose sides. Today, we're not going to talk about tariff numbers. Those are everywhere in the news. What we're talking about is the strategic blueprint behind this speech, what kind of chessboard Trump is really setting up. Let me give you the conclusion first. He is forcing the entire world to pick a side. You want continued access to the US economic engine? Fine. But first, you have to cut ties with China. Want to play both sides and benefit from both? From the day of that Davos speech on, that road is officially blocked. This is what I call the Great Divergence. The world is splitting in two. One half is the US-led dollar zone, the other is the China-led resource zone. The middle ground is disappearing, but slogans alone don't get things done. Trump is a businessman. What he wants is real control. To make sure this encirclement actually works, he dropped 3 chess pieces at the same time: align with Russia to contain China, secure Greenland, and lock down Middle Eastern capital. Every single move targets China's pressure points. Next, I'll break them down one by one. Let's start with the most unexpected move of all, aligning with Russia to contain China. If I told you the US is considering pulling Russia closer, would you think I've lost my mind? After all, what has the world seen for the past 2 years? The US leading NATO to support Ukraine, sanctioning Russia, practically wishing Putin could be erased from the planet. But the signals Trump released in Davos point in the exact opposite direction. He not only hinted that the Russia-Ukraine conflict is nearing an end, he even suggested inviting Putin into a so-called peace committee he's setting up. You heard that right. Putin, sanctioned by the West for 2 years, may be invited to sit inside a US-led international club. This isn't reconciliation. It's a deal. Why? Because in Trump's eyes, Russia was never the real threat. At best, it's a regional troublemaker, annoying, but not decisive. Its economy is less than 1/10 the size of China's. Its technological innovation is close to zero. Aside from selling oil and gas, it has no real leverage against the US. China is different. China has a complete industrial system, a market of 1.4 billion people, and rapidly advancing technological capabilities. That's the real existential threat. So Trump's calculation is very clear. He doesn't want to fight 2 wars at once. With Russia, negotiate if possible. If not, freeze the situation. Free up resources and focus all firepower on China. That's what aligning with Russia to contain China really means. You might ask, Putin isn't stupid, why would he cooperate? Good question. That depends on what Trump is willing to offer. Based on what's been leaked so far, the US may be willing to make concessions on several key issues. Recognizing Russia's existing gains in eastern Ukraine, gradually easing some sanctions, and even offering security assurances regarding NATO's eastward expansion. And in exchange, what does the US want? Russia's neutrality in the US. China showdown. Put bluntly, stop backing China. Over the past few years, China and Russia have talked about a no-limits partnership, and it looked solid. But in geopolitics, there are no permanent friends, only permanent interests. If the price is high enough, would Putin be tempted? That's a huge question mark. But even if Russia doesn't fully tilt toward the US, as long as it chooses to stand aside at critical moments, for China, that alone would be disastrous. This is the first chess piece, cutting off strategic support. The second chess piece lands in a place you probably didn't expect: Greenland. When people first heard Trump wanted to buy Greenland, most laughed it off. Is this old real estate guy so addicted to buying land that he wants to buy an island? But if you actually study Greenland's strategic value, you'll realize Trump isn't foolish at all. What does Greenland have? Rare earths. These are the lifeblood of high-tech industries, from chips to missiles to electric vehicles. Where is 90% of global rare earth processing capacity? In China, the US is completely choked in this area. Greenland has massive rare earth reserves that are barely developed. If the US controls them, it opens a new supply route that bypasses China entirely. Then there's the Arctic shipping route. As global warming melts Arctic ice, a brand new shipping corridor is opening up. China has been positioning itself there for years, even calling itself a near-Arctic state. If the US controls Greenland, it drives a nail straight into the Arctic's choke point. China wants to pass through. Not so easy anymore. So Trump's interest in Greenland isn't impulsive at all. It directly targets China's resource lifeline. And this move already has real progress. Just hours after the Davos speech, Trump posted that he had reached a framework agreement with NATO Secretary General Rutte. Details haven't been made public, but piecing together available information. The outline looks like this. The U.S. gains the right to establish permanent military bases in Greenland, priority rights to develop mineral resources, and explicit exclusion of Chinese and Russian involvement. In exchange, Trump dropped his previous threat to impose tariffs on 8 European countries. From threats to framework, less than a month. That speed tells you this wasn't improvisation. It was a premeditated move. This is the second chess piece, locking resources. The third chess piece falls in the Middle East. Trump set up something called a peace committee. Sounds positive, right? But if you look at how it actually works, it's essentially a protection fee club. How does it work? Entry costs $1 billion. Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Israel, all the wealthy regional players are in. On the surface, it's about regional peace. In reality, it locks Gulf surplus capital into US-led projects. These oil states used to have money they didn't know where to put, and China's Belt and Road happily welcomed them. Now you want to stay under the US security umbrella. Fine, pay up first, put your money where Washington tells you. At the same time, the US is building a quasi-NATO in the Middle East. Instead of chaos and free-for-all conflicts, Trump wants to mold these countries into a single fist, with Washington holding the handle. What does that mean? It means Middle Eastern energy and capital now have to pass through the US gate first. China wants oil, investment, infrastructure. Only if the US says yes. This is the third chess piece, locking capital. Now connect all three. Align with Russia, cut off China's strategic backup. Take Greenland, choke off critical resources. Lock the Middle East, block capital flows. Support, resources, capital 3, pressure lines tightening at the same time. This isn't an upgraded trade war. It's a full-spectrum strategic siege. And once these moves are in place, the world you know as the global village disappears. What replaces it are two camps, two systems, two ways of life. This brings us to the next question. What does the Great Divergence era actually look like? Many people hear Great Divergence and think it sounds abstract. Let me put it plainly. There will be two economic systems, two tech standards, two trade rules. Doing business, investing, even traveling abroad. You'll first have to answer one question. Which side are you on? This isn't alarmism. The split is already happening, and faster than most people realize. Let's start with the first camp, the dollar zone. Its core is the US, with members including North America, Europe, Japan, South Korea, Australia, plus Israel and Middle Eastern states pulled into the peace committee. This camp has a few defining traits. It's rich. Together, these countries account for over half of global GDP, with high income and strong consumption power. It has technology. Top-tier chips, AI biotech, core patents sit almost entirely within this circle. It has rules. You want access? Fine. Use dollars, accept us financial oversight, and stay away from Chinese core technologies. That's the message Trump delivered at Davos. If you want access to the US engine, you follow US rules. But this new world order comes with a price tag. What price? Higher costs. Once you cut ties with those efficient global supply chains, prices will skyrocket. Think about an iPhone. Parts come from China, Vietnam, Malaysia. If everything has to be made within the dollar zone, your next phone will cost you a lot more. So, inside this camp, you get security and tech, but you pay for it with a higher cost of living. Now, let's look at the second camp. The resource zone, centered around China and its partners. They have the resources, oil, gas, rare minerals. They have the manufacturing power, and a massive population of over 5 billion people. But they have a big weakness, technology. They can't get the most advanced chips or the machines to make them. So, can these two worlds coexist? In the short term, maybe. But long term, it's a collision course. We're talking different tech standards, different apps, a world where your phone from one camp won't work in the other. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe. Have you noticed the world is changing? It feels like we're being forced to pick a side, right? Well, it's not just a feeling. A great divergence is happening right now, splitting the global economy into two major competing blocks. The days of playing it safe in the middle are over. This massive shift is shaking up everything, from international trade to your personal investments. So, what does this mean for your money? How do you navigate a world where you have to choose a side? In this video, we're breaking down what this new economic landscape looks like, how it will impact global assets, and the strategic choices you need to make to protect and grow your portfolio. Don't get left behind. Make sure you subscribe for more insights.